Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for today's MapInfo Pro Customer Support Forum. The purpose of this forum is to give our MapInfo Pro users in the Asia Pacific region an update on MapInfo Pro and to give you guys an opportunity to interact with our experts. My name is Stacey Grant from Precisely and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We're very fortunate today to have a panel of the most experienced and knowledgeable people in the business when it comes to MapInfo Pro. So I'll introduce our speakers in just a minute, but first I'll just cover off some quick housekeeping. So today's audio is being streamed through your computer, so there's no need to dial in. Hopefully you can all hear us by now. The audio lines are muted during the webinar or the presentation, so please use the Q&A panel to type in your questions at any time. We'll probably sort of wait until the end when we do sort of the open forum to answer those, but type them in at any time so we can have a look when we get to that point. If you're having any technical issues, please reach out to us via the Q&A box. If you can't see the Q&A box, there should be a little purple Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen that you can click on to bring it up. We do recommend using Chrome. It just seems to work better with this platform. If you're having any issues, technical issues, I'd recommend refreshing your browser window. If that still doesn't work, then just try logging out and logging back in, and that usually fixes it. All of the windows in this webinar platform can be moved around, so you can resize them and move them around and set it up how you like. You'll also notice that there is a resources box there as well. So in here you'll find some information, some resources that are relevant to MapInfo Pro. You can view those during the forum, but don't stress too much because we will send a follow-up email afterwards with all of these information, all the resources, as well as a recording of today's session and the slides as well. So you don't have to worry about taking copious amounts of notes. We'll send it to you afterwards. And we will be asking some poll questions as well to get some input from you. So it'd be really great if you could participate in the polls. Okay, so this is the agenda. So I'm just covering off the intro now. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about what's new and the latest version of MapInfo Pro, just cover off some highlights of the latest functionality. Then what we'll do is we'll cover off the roadmap. So we'll talk about what we're planning to add into the product in the coming releases. So Jennifer will talk about that. And then what we're going to do is start answering some of the questions that you guys have submitted to us prior to today's forum. So we asked you guys to send through any questions or topics that you wanted covered in today's session. So we pushed that out through the knowledge communities and the RSS feeds in MapInfo Pro. So we've got some questions coming through that we'll answer, and then we'll also throw it open for you to ask further questions live, and we've got our experts here to answer those questions live during today's session. And if we get time, we'll go through some of the resources that are available and how you can get to them. But as I said, we'll send out that information afterwards if we don't get time to do that. Okay, so these are our presenters today. As I said, very knowledgeable, and we're very lucky to have these guys on the call today. So joining me, we have Jennifer Kokonos, who is the Senior Product Manager for MapInfo Pro. We also have Andrei Veselov, who's the Director of Software Development for MapInfo Pro, and also Esther Kazanathan, who's a Senior Sales Engineer here in Australia. So before I hand over to the team, I will get a quick poll question happening just so we can sort of gauge where you guys are at with MapInfo Pro and what version you're using. Okay, so first poll question is, what version of MapInfo Pro are you currently using? Okay, so are you using version 2021.1 or 2021 or version 2019 or maybe an older version? If you are using an older version or something else, can you just write it in the Q&A box for us, just so we know if you're not using it yet, maybe you're considering using it, then just let us know that as well. So we'll just give you a minute to put in your answer. Just one option here you can select and then click the submit button. Okay. All right. Last few seconds, and then what we're going to do is share the results so you can all see what version everyone's running. Okay, so there's the results. That's interesting, 31% on 2021 and 2019, and then 27 on the latest version, and some are using older versions. Is that what you'd expect, Jen and Andre?
That is interesting. Yeah, most people are on the current version, which is good. The majority are. Nice.
Yep, not too many using older versions, so that's good.
Yeah, and whoever is in version 2021 should upgrade to 2021.1. That's easy. And you get extra functionality.
Yeah. Maybe after today, after we talk, the 2019 folks will jump up to 21 with us.
Indeed. All right, we'll move along. So now I'll just quickly introduce Jennifer, who will then take it from here. So Jen is our new product manager for MapInfo Pro, and she's based in Rochester, New York. When I say new, I mean she has been with Precisely for almost 5 months now. So not brand new, but still new to most of you, I'm sure. So Jen's role is to define and execute the roadmap and strategy for MapInfo Pro. So that includes, integrating it within the overall Precisely data integrity suite. Jen has many years of experience in product management, in particular SaaS products, and she's worked across a variety of industries such as healthcare and telco. But she is a hardcore GIS geek at heart, and she studied GIS at university, so I thought I'd mention that. So I'll hand over to you now, Jen.
Thank you. I am a very proud GIS geek, and I'm happy to come back into the fold. I'm thrilled that I've been able to join Precisely and come back to a product where, you know, I learned all about GIS. So I'll stop now. I might get a little teary. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done in version 21. Now, this is going to be available to you. So I'm not going to go over everything in great depth. And some things actually Andre and Esther are going to show off a little bit later. But I kind of want to just give you an idea of the highlights of version 2021. So our first section here, I think one of the most important are things that partners and customers have requested. That could be, you know, through the ideas portal. It could be by contacting us directly, by posting in our community, our discussion forums. But some of the more exciting features that we had that came from these strategic partner and customer requests were the time series capabilities. So we can view and analyze geospatial data with a temporal component, which is super cool. Esther's going to show you some of that. You can actually do now a tile server reprojection. Most often it's probably you're using Bing Maps, but you can use other types of layers as well. So you can display aerials in any coordinate system now. So we've also got now support for paging in WFS, and it's going to allow you to access large WFS data sets now with that paging support. Under integration and automation, you know, the big thing here is that we have the expanded GDAL support. Lets you access, analyze, and create maps with numerous and 30+ formats. So that was a really big feature for us. There are other improvements in this category as well. If we move on to raster, the big thing here is the virtual raster. So it's going to allow you to make your advanced raster analysis more streamlined and less computer and processing intensive, with expanded support for virtual raster. And actually, Andre's going to tell you all about that, so I won't. Plus, he's the expert on these things. And of course, we always strive to make MapInfo and keep it as easy as possible. And we take a lot of the ease of use and usability suggestions from customers and partners as well. So the big one here, select by attribute. So you can query, slice and dice your data with NoSQL, which is cool. You can actually apply a filter expression to a layer, so you can limit the number of objects that you see. We also have a bunch of other UX improvements that have been added in 21. Also here, this is a link to a post that Peter did in the community that'll give you really good details on all of this if you'd like to check it out. All right, so then we look at our dot release 2021.1, which was released the end of March this year. This one has a few really good extra features. As Andre was saying, anybody who's on 21 should absolutely make this little jump to the .1 release, because we did add some features here. So we have this newly redesigned choose projection dialog, which is that chord sys dialog. And it's great, and you have a lot more features there. You can favorite things, you know, it's just a big usability improvement there. We also have several more enhancements to the time series feature that we released in 2021. Support for time-enabled WMS layers, so you can use those with time series. You can use a visibility expression, so you can control when a layer should be visible. That could be used in conjunction with the time series to turn on and off layers for specific time intervals. And you can also time enable layers for time series analysis in different ways. We also had a couple other things. You know, the refresh query is a nice kind of usability option, so you can refresh an already open query. It's pretty cool. But again, any details that you want, you know, please reach out if you have questions. But you can also read all about it on the post. All right, and this is just, you know, I wanted to point out that our 2021 release is available in 17 languages. I think that's pretty awesome. You know, I'm very proud of the fact that we are a very multilingual product. All right, so let's talk a little bit about roadmap and strategy for MapInfo. So this is, you know, I've actually got 3 sections on this slide. So you can see this first section here that says pre-existing. That would be the 2019 release. The current are the 2 releases I just quickly ran through, so we're not going to go through that again. But what I want to focus on just for a couple minutes here are the things that we're considering right now. We have some work in progress, but much of it is still being decided, and we would love your thoughts on this. So we are looking at a version 2023 release in the second half of next year, so H2 of 2023. And I'll just run through some of these items here. So we are looking into options, and there are multiple sort of smaller enhancements that we can do that will really make a difference in the quality and usability of our 3D visualization in MapInfo. And I'm excited about the potential there. That's it. We're not absolutely sure what we're going to get in the next version, but I think we're going to make some good progress there. We're also looking at the potential of making a map series or a map book feature in MapInfo. So this would allow you to basically set up a template, you know, based on, for instance, let's say you know you had a point layer that was all of your stores or you know, all of your locations, and you wanted to zoom around the map and you know, create output. It could be PDF output, it could go to a printer, it could be an image output. And you wanted to just, in an automated way, create really nice looking map output. And in batch is the big thing here. So that's something that we're thinking about as well. We're looking at bringing third-party apps into the MapInfo marketplace from the community. We think that would be a good thing to do. Right now, we're actually already working on our enhanced integration and interoperability with Spectrum Spatial. So this is going to be especially interesting and important to customers that have both MapInfo Pro and Spectrum Spatial. And what we're doing is we're really going to make this, you know, a first class type of integration where you're going to have seamless back and forth. You're going to really be able to use them together in many more ways than you can currently, and in a much more seamless fashion. So I think we're really excited about that as well. On the raster side, we're also looking at cloud optimized GeoTIFF support and also GeoPackage support. If you have questions about the raster stuff, Andrea is your man. And of course, we always take from partners and our customers suggestions for usability improvements, and we have quite a few of those that came from the Ideas portal. All right, so, you know, I was talking about what we're thinking for our 2023 release, and what I'm starting up is this program that we're calling Design Partners. And this isn't necessarily just MapInfo Pro. It could be other products within location intelligence at Precisely. But, you know, in this audience, I think we definitely would be looking for folks who want to help us with MapInfo Pro and also, you know, other spatial analytics solutions possibly in the future. So what you'll get if you want to hang out with us is actual like influence on the development of our products, right? Both our SaaS solutions that we're working on and future desktop releases of MapInfo Pro. You'll get early access to mockups and prototypes from us. We'll be reviewing those with this group. And then also invitations to participate in beta programs for new features, and even new products and applications. And what we'd love to get from you in return is, you know, specific feedback and ideas. You can send it to me. You can put it in through Ideas. However you want to do that, it would be great. We would love it if you would have time to participate in a user research session, which we would do live with you. We'll probably have you look at a mock-up with us, or, you know, ask you some specific questions about use cases and how you would use a certain feature. And then maybe we would have some online surveys as well that would help us understand, you know, and get more feedback. If you're interested, please contact me. I would love to hear from you. Now, if Design Partners seems, you know, maybe a little bit too much, please don't forget that we do absolutely get a lot of our usability improvements that we include in our releases from the Precisely Ideas portal. So please use that as well. All right, I think we're up to a poll question.
Awesome.
Stacey, are you
Thanks for that, Jen.
All right.
Yep, so we'll just launch that one. So this is really just to understand what industry everyone is working in. So we've got a bunch of options there: public sector, telco, insurance, retail, excuse me, banking, prop tech. If it's something else, just please write it in the Q&A box for us to let us know. So we'll just give you a little bit of time to answer that one, and then we'll close it off. I can see, Jen, that there's a few questions have started to come through in the Q&A that we'll get to later, so that's good. I told you the users in APAC are very good at sending through questions and being interactive, so.
I'm glad.
Okay. Last few seconds, everyone, and then we'll close that one off and share the results. I can see some comments coming through as well. So public sector, I mean all levels of government, local, state and federal, but yeah, letting us know if it's local, state or federal is good too. So thanks for that input. All right, we'll close that one off and we'll share the results. So, yep, as I expected, quite a few from public sector, telco, and then a bunch of others. So there you go. Okay. I probably should have added a mining or an oil and gas category in there as well. That's my bad, sorry, because I know we have quite a few users here in Australia from that industry. So, okay, excellent. Thanks, everyone. So now we will move along to discuss some of the topics that you guys sent through to us that you wanted to be covered in today's session. So before we do that, I'll just quickly introduce Andre. Probably doesn't need too much introduction. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Andre. He's been here to Australia a few times to attend our user forums, and he's worked with MapInfo Pro for many years, almost as long as me. So Andre is Director for Software Development, and he's a fellow for the Spatial Analytics Engineering team here at Precisely, and he lives in Albany, New York. He's a pretty clever guy. He has a PhD in physics. He came to the US in 1992 to work as a researcher at the University of Notre Dame. And in 1999, Andre joined the MapInfo team as a software engineer, and he's never looked back. And he loves talking to Precisely customers all around the world to help them get their job done with MapInfo Pro. So, Andre, I will hand over to you to answer the first few questions that came in.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. So really happy to be here and to be able to answer questions. So I'll try to do my best, and then also we'll follow up with those questions that are coming in the Q&A. So I'll go over all 3 questions that have been asked through the survey. So first one is about the new raster functionality that has been added in version 2021 and 0.1. So we, in the 2021.1, we did some additional changes, right? So we improved how we handle the null cell values and transparency, so that there is improvement overall. There was not too many new features, but there was significant change in 2021.1. So that's why, if you are on 2021, you probably want to upgrade. And the easiest way to upgrade is just go inside Pro and run the check for update in the backstage, and it's going to send you directly to the page where you can download the installer. So in terms of the main features for the raster in version 2021 is the MVR support. It's MapInfo Virtual Raster. So it has been started in this version. At this point, I would say we only scratch the surface. So there's still more things to be done. But the main thing of this is trying to make the operations on the fly, rather than going through the multiple steps with the raster, doing certain operations, saving it, and then doing it again. So we can do all those things currently on the fly. So the 3 operations for which we enabled it in version 2021 are merge, reproject, and resample. And I'll show a little bit of a slides, what you can do with them. So in this picture, you can see that I downloaded some elevation data for Sydney area. It's around Bundy Beach in Sydney. Been there. It's beautiful, really beautiful area. But yeah, I downloaded these images. I opened them up, and you see the color spread is different in each of the images, so it doesn't really look that nice. So what can I do? I think the easiest thing to do is obviously, and that's what we always recommend people, you can merge them into one, right? So, but and then in the result, you're going to get another file created on your hard drive. So, and then maybe what if you need to update some of those files, so you have to run that operation again, and so you end up with multiple copies of different files on your file system. Instead, what we making available is creation of MVR, which is really just an XML file that contains inside that basically the instructions of what to do with those files. So in this case, we will do the merge on the fly and display it on the screen. So this operation, at least for these 4 files, was extremely quick, just took 100 milliseconds to get it done. And then, it creates an MVR file. Then there is a tab file that references the MVR file, just like you'll do in the raster. And then inside the MVR file, there is a descriptions where to get those component raster files and what to do with them. So what you're going to see then, beautiful elevation data set. So everything is spread out, the color spread out correctly. So it works just like merge imaged. If you will do it, you create a hard copy of it, but you can have it and without creating extra files in your file system. Performance is pretty good. So in my case, I only created it for 4 images, but could be easily hundreds of images. So it's a good way to use the data, and that way you don't really modify the starting data, the original data. You just kind of provide the recipe, what to do with it, how to display it. Similarly, we did the operations for resampling, and resampling means that if you have a raster with some high resolutions, but you want to see it in a lower resolution, so you can do it on the fly now as well. So in this case, I have a data set which has a resolution 40 centimeters per cell, and then I run it through this operation. So all I got to do is check this checkbox, create MVR, and in this case, it would create MVR instead of actually creating a new output file. and then you'll get the result. Similarly, there is a way to do it for the reprojection. So you know that MapInfo Pro supports on-the-fly reprojection, but sometimes, in particular for the large raster files, it could be a little bit slow. So in these cases, we definitely recommend you to try to use the MVR. In this case, I have elevation data sets for Tasmania, and it came in WGS84 coordinate system. So, and I want to convert it into something different. So I convert into MGA 2020 zone 55, which I think is the right one for Tasmania. So again, you go through this process, the projections, where you select the create MVR option, and you press process, and in 1-2 seconds, in this case 1.2 seconds, you get the result, and the result's gonna look like this. So, and in this case, so you have a tab file. So whenever you open it, it's always gonna remember that it should show up in MGA 2020 zone 55 coordinate system. Very convenient. And again, in this case, you're only gonna have the one original raster file on your system and maybe have multiple MVR files. You can create as many as you want for different coordinate systems. So pretty powerful, very useful. So really recommend you to try it out and see if that works for you. And if you had some problems with the projection raster images, definitely try it out. So second question was about the Python integration. I think this one is interesting for sure, right? So there's a lot of things we can talk about. We're probably going to need the whole webinar to talk about it. But what I'll do instead, I'll just quickly go over a little bit history and provide some links and overview of the functionalities is available. So we started it in 1703, definitely knowing that there's a lot of people in the community who knows how to use Python, want to be able to use it, and especially with all the support for all those different libraries that are available for Python. So we did it in 1703, but it was a little bit cumbersome, right? It was our first step. It was very hard for users to get it installed and set up because we did not install Python itself as part of the MI Pro install. It was a really long instruction how to do it, and it was not easy. So what we did is and kind of review it based on user commands. And 2019.1, we said, well, we're going to make it a first-class scripting language for MapInfo Pro. So we started installing Python 3.07 as part of MI Pro install. We will configure it. We install some of the well-known Python libraries, which we expect people use. We also provide instruction if you want to install any additional libraries. We also created the Python console. At that point, it was created as a add-in, and it was available on through MapInfo Marketplace. And then we also created the Python Quick Start application, which kind of shows you some of the samples, kind of interactive ones that you can try it out, also available through Marketplace. And then in 2019.3, we made actually Python console to be part of MapInfo Pro, right? So just like in my basic window, there's a Python console, and you can do very similar things, maybe even much more than you can do through MapBasic. And we also updated the version of Python to 3.10 in that release. So I'm going to have a couple of links here to the community where we have like good discussions, good overview of the capabilities, so you can take a look. And also, like if you're going to have any questions, please ask them at the community. It's active, so and we will have MapInfo engineers answering those questions if you're stuck and you need some help. There are multiple places in MapInfo Pro where you can use it, the Python. You can run those and create and write those and run those Python scripts from the Python console window. You just open that through the tools window, drop down, and just start typing just like you do it in my basic window. There is also ability to do those, create and run those scripts through the new SQL window. That's one been added recently, so definitely hope people use it. And if not, please take a look. There's a lot of good capabilities there where you can not only create those scripts, but save them, organize them, you select as favorite and things like that. And then also, which is very important, right? So you can now run Python script just like basic application, right? So you can use write applications through the tools window and then select Python script file with .py extension, load it and run it. So let me just show you where you can get that Python Quick Start. I think that's really good application that was developed, and you just go to the MapInfo Marketplace, click find out the Python Quick Start application, click on the install button, install product button once you click it. So we're going to download it, install it, and launch it. So all you got to do is then run it. And when you run it, that's going to look like this, right? So we'll have multiple applications there available. So you would be able to, edit it, make some changes. You can run them right from here and try it out and see that actually works. And that's kind of easy interactive way to get yourself introduced to Python support. And then the last question was about MapInfo to be able to do feature clipping even when the polygons contain geometry errors. And the question was, how is MapInfo handling geometries with errors? And the answer is pretty simple. We're trying to do the best we could, right? So, but you know that MapInfo from the very beginning was developed as very forgiving applications. Like in case, let's say you have some self-intersects and polygons, we're not gonna, complain about it. We'll save it in the top file. So when you open it, it's gonna be there. Whether that's gonna be, completely what you want or not, we're not gonna warn you, right? So it's gonna be there, and we'll do our best whenever operation you try to do. With clipping, and I mean, you probably mean the erase or erase outside functionality. That's where you can, kind of clip out or erase parts of the object. So, if you have some, let's say, some self-intersects, in some cases, you might get some unpredictable things. Maybe part of the object might disappear or something like that. So I would strongly recommend try to run check regions before that and make sure you don't have those problems in your data before you do the clipping, because otherwise, as I said, we'll try to do our best, but that's not necessarily might be what you expect. I think that's all from me.
Awesome. Thanks, Andre. All right, so next up we have Esther, who's going to do a live demo for us of some of the topics that came through in the survey. So Esther is probably also no stranger to those of you in Australia. She's one of our senior sales engineers here at Precisely and has been here 8 years today. She tells us just before it's her 8-year work anniversary today. So Esther's focus is on the LI, the location intelligence, and the data portfolio here at Precisely. So that's products like MapInfo Pro, Spectrum Spatial, TrueView, and all of our data products. So Esther is based in Sydney, and she likes hanging out with her kids who are 1 and 3. So Esther, I will now hand over to do.
Thank you, Stacey.
Cool.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Wonderful. All right. So the first question that I'll be demoing is, can I use dynamic demographics data with MapInfo Pro? The answer is yes, you can. For those of you who are not aware, dynamic demographics is a data set that we released early this year. And what it is it combines source mobile location data with demographics data. So that means you can not only view origins and destination relationship, we can also understand the demographics of people at a location as they move. You can download this data set from Precisely Data Experience under sample data sets. And if you go to the demographics tab, sort by geography, and you'll see that option available for download. And once downloaded, you'll notice a set of folders that contains pipe delimited text. So I'll just open one of these to show you. And so to use all of these files within the dataset, you'll need to join the files with either the hex level 9 or the SA1 boundaries so that you can actually view it in MapInfo, so for a mappable table. So let's have a look at it in MapInfo Pro. I'll begin by opening one of the boundary files. So I can go to Open Table and go to the Boundaries folder. Say the SA1, you can see there at the moment I've got my tab files of type and it's not showing because, like I mentioned earlier, they ship in text format, so type separate delimited. So we can use the new vector files OGR feature that came in version 2021 to open the table. And if I just go back to that for a moment, and just open that in a text editor, you can see that I've got geometry information under this geometry column, so they're in the string. So when presented with this vector file open options, what we can do is, because we know that the geometry is in that geometry column, so we can add geometry in there, click OK. And then here I have the option to set the style for the map objects. So I can do that. And then also as an option, I can save the table as a native MapInfo file. So if I click OK, you can see that that's running in the background. So you can see that, that's one way where we can open a text file into the MapInfo when it appears straight away mappable without having to do anything else using that OGR feature. And the good news is with dynamic demographics is that while we can do this manually, we can open the boundaries file and then we can join that with the other data files, you actually don't have to, because one of our distinguished engineers, Peter Moeller, a name that I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, has published a tool on the marketplace called the Dynamic Demographics Analyzer. I'll just take us there quickly so you can see that. And this tool requires MapInfo 2021 at a minimum to work. So another reason for those of you still on 2019 or lower versions to upgrade. And once you've downloaded, you can run the tool, and and just drop down, you can see that this data loading feature, it says there in the tooltip that it converts dynamic demographic text files into MapInfo tab files. So whatever I did just then, you don't actually need to do that. If you've got the tool, you can click on that and then it will create all the tab files for you. So what can we do with the tool? So you'll notice that in the map tab, there are new buttons that appear because I've loaded the tool. And we are able to then look at where people come from to a location that we're interested in. So just let's say I'm interested in knowing where people are coming from to Sydney Opera House. I can just simply click on the destination to origins button and then click on the Opera House, and then that's going away thinking. That will come up shortly.
Joys of doing live demos, hey Esther.
It's always a little bit of a risk,
but it's worth it. Yeah, it always works in the test.
Okay, I'll just open Workspace and see if that would. Oh, yep, that's come up. So, cool. Just let it load for a bit more. All right, that's working now. Sorry about that. So we can see from Sydney Opera House, and these lines are showing where people are coming from. So people are coming from the big cities around Australia. Surprisingly, no one's coming from Adelaide. We can see, if I zoom in there, the green hex is Sydney Opera House, where it's located within, and the red where the origins that come from, that come to Sydney Opera House. And then using the calculate statistics we can look at the average distance that people travel from. So on average, about 31 kilometers, with a minimum of 380 meters and a maximum of over 3,000 kilometers traveling into Sydney Opera House. There's a lot more you can do with this tool, so I highly recommend checking it out and looking up the documentation that comes with it. And also with dynamic demographics, I think since that's a bit of a topic of interest, here is a sneak peek of what's about to come. So this sample data shows monthly seasonal trends in activity and dwell time in an SA1. I'll just browse the table so we can have a look. So you can see here, if I sort that by SA1, you can see that there are 12 SA1 records and the month and the activity and the dwell time that comes with it. So with the version 2021 that Jen has mentioned, we released a new time series functionality. And so what we can do is simply click on the map at time series feature, and we'll be able then to view the data in the time series. So click play. You see that change over time throughout the year. If I zoom into the snow region, for example, you can see that it's green or low activity, and then high activity coming in winter between June and August as well. All right, so let's move on to the next question, which is to review the new Select by Attribute feature. This feature was added in version 2021, and I've actually used this a lot myself because it just makes it so easy to query the data. Like Jen said earlier, there's no need for to write SQL. And so coming back to the data here, just turn that one off. So let's say with all the origins that come to Sydney Opera House, I'm interested in the top 20 origins that come to Sydney Opera House. So I can select the Select by Attribute feature and then pick my table. Now I can see all the columns within the table that is shown. This column area will show up to 40 columns. So if your table has more than 40, you can actually click the Add button by clicking from here. And in 2021.1, we've enhanced this dialog so that you can actually add multiple columns if you wish to, and even search and filter the column that you're looking for. Now, to see only the top 20 home origins to the Opera House, I can use this operator for the rank less than 20. And then I can name my query as a top home origin. And then I can add that to the map window. I'm having a lot of issues. So let me just run that again. Just go spatial. And 20. Sorry, there's something wrong there. But basically, you can see that there's no need now to write SQL query. You can simply just type in the value that you're interested in, and then the query will run. And also with 2021.1, we've added the option to update existing query. So if you've already got a query, you can actually change any values within it, let's say the top 5 ranking origins, and then click on that update existing button, and that will update the query for you. So let's go on to the next question. That is to explain the new projection dialog. So in 2021.1, we introduced a brand new choose projection dialog. If you remember the previous version, it can take some time to find your desired projection because you have to scroll through a long list of categories. So this new choose projection dialog lets you search for a projection using part of the name. So for example, MGA, and that will show up, or a datum, for example, GDA 2020, if that's what you're interested in, or an EPSG code like 326. So it just makes it a lot quicker to find a projection compared to the previous version. And then you can also find, let's say, I'm pick the lat and long, and you'll see that the recent projection that I've just used will appear on the top under my recent group. Now the star icon lets me make any projection that I use frequently a favorite, so that I can always come back to it. It always appears at the top for me. And so that then becomes under a favorite group by itself. There's no limit to how many favorite you can have, so you can have as many as you like. This dialog is also resizable, so you can actually view without having to scroll too much as well. So that's exciting. And then finally, the last one, which is reprojecting tile server-based layers Bing. I think you saw what I did just now. I have a Bing Maps, Bing aerial image open here in my map window. And if you work with this and have been frustrated by it, you know that it generally appear in that popular visualization projection. And before it was hard to, or impossible to reproject it. Now you can actually do that. So it's like how I did that just now. I can click on that, and you can see now that the map is now taking a lat long projection. And if you can also do that a different way, so just show that. So for example, my data is in lat and long, so I can say pick the projection from my layer and set it to that as well. So, and that's it from me.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, so now we have another poll question. Okay, this is where you get to vote. So we're asking, what's your favorite new feature from version 2021? So is it the new time series capabilities, new select by attribute dialog, tile server reprojection, expanded GDAL support, the MapInfo virtual raster, or something else? So again, if it's something else that's your favorite, then type it into the Q&A panel for us. So I'll just give you a minute or so to select one of those. And at the end too, I should mention that a little survey will pop up once the webinar finishes, where you can send us some feedback on things that you'd like to see covered in these sessions in the future. So make sure that you fill out that little survey for us as well, if you could, please. Okay, last chance to vote, and then we'll have a quick look at those results. Okay, so pretty evenly split, I think. The winner is the MapInfo virtual raster.
Nice.
Thoughts, Jen?
I find this very interesting. Yeah, Andre's happy.
Well, the server projection is also pretty high, so
that's true.
That's good.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Bit of a mixed bag again.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. We'll move on. So we've answered a few of the questions that came in beforehand, but we have got a little bit of time to answer some more questions now. So we've got the panel here ready to answer your questions. A few of them have come through already in the Q&A box, so we might get started with some of those. But if you have any more questions, type them in. If we don't get to them all today, then we'll follow up with you afterwards and send you an answer. So Andre and Jen, did you want to start with some of the questions that you've seen come in?
Yeah, I think there was a question about the geocoding, right? So that's definitely something that is part of MapInfo Pro, right? So if you are there, you should be able to go to the Services tab in MapInfo Pro and you create an account with under that with your email. So once you do that, you will have, I believe, 2,000 credits per month that you can use to use our geocoding services. So and then we have also two ways to do it. There is a add-in that is geocoding using server that you can use. You can try it out. Basically, you pass in the table and then you get results back to get the data geocoded. And then there is also the older one, but they both work the same services. So you should be able to try it out. So if you need more information, I'm sure you can maybe contact us and we'll send you to the right directions. But that definitely it's available. Would appreciate if you can try it out.
And if you use more than that, you can also purchase additional credits, right, Andre?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think there was some question about the Python. So from Jan. So if you can send us email a little bit more description on that, so it would be try to answer that, or maybe post it in the community would be also a good way to do it. It's like just more steps, just explaining what exactly you're trying to do. The tab file, that's an interesting one. Yes, it's kind of that's the way kind of Pro builds. There's always this little tab file, and that is really just the metadata, right? So that's kind of used to open the table. So for now, I mean, we're gonna continue to support the tab files, but something that we can consider for the future to change.
Just saw a question about MapInfo Pro training. Yeah, we do offer MapInfo Pro training. There is actually a question at the end when we close down the session that asks if you want more information on a certain number of topics, and training is one of those. So you can just fill that survey out at the end and we'll get in touch with you.
Somebody asked if this is being recorded. It is, and we'll be sending that out, right, Stacy? To everyone, whether or not they actually made it. We'll be sending that out.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone that registered will get the recording link in the next couple of days.
And also the slide deck, right?
Yes, the slides.
Great.
You guys able to answer the one about the add to map grid lines?
Yeah, I don't think there is a way to rotate it. So the text, that should be, might be another one that could be good to add to the ideas portal. See how many people find it useful as well. So that's where we always look for each release. We look into that one, and if there are more votes, then we definitely prioritize it high.
So just to read out the question, because the audience can't see the questions coming in. So the question was, when using add to map grid lines, are you able to rotate the direction of the grid text on the vertical lines? So that was the question. As Andre mentioned, the ideas portal is there for you guys to send through your ideas and your suggestions for the product improvements, and you can vote on ideas that have been submitted as well. So again, we will send you a link to that ideas portal in the follow-up email. So yeah, you just need to register for that to add in your ideas. Okay.
Any more there?
There's a couple more, but I think we might have to follow up with them offline. And what we might do too is we might maybe compile a list of all the questions that have come through and answers and publish that on the knowledge communities. So we'll include that in the follow-up email so you know where to look. We'll just quickly run through a couple of these resources that are available. We've mentioned the knowledge communities several times now. So that's a really good place if you're needing some help, if you want to ask a question. There's a whole bunch of MapInfo Pro users from around the world that are part of that community, and they can answer your question. There's also a heap of resources on there that you can use. So if you're just getting started with MapInfo Pro, you'll find videos that show you how to do some of the basic functionality, and there's also links on there to other things like how to get help and access to tech support and other things like that. Oh, that was the knowledge community. Sorry, that was the startup screen we were talking about, wasn't it, in MapInfo Pro? It's got all those links to the knowledge communities and everything else. Knowledge communities, hopefully most of you are already signed on to that and using that. It is a really, really good resource. There's also a whole bunch of videos on YouTube. So there's a MapInfo Pro channel on YouTube. We'll include this link so you can have access to that, but there's a whole bunch of different topics there. So if you're wondering how to do something, first place to go is to look at that YouTube channel and see if it's on there. There's also a MapInfo Pro page on LinkedIn. So this is where you'll find Peter's MapInfo Monday posts. Every week he posts a new tip or trick, and it's really handy. So that's probably worth subscribing to or following so you can get all of those tips from Peter as well as other information. And that's it from us. So we're almost at the hour. So I wanted to say thank you to our presenters. I know it's getting late for you, Jen and Andre, being in the US. So thank you very much for staying up late to do this forum for us and to do it live. It's always much better to have you guys online and presenting live to the audience here. So thank you again, and thank you, Esther, for doing your demo. And I wanted to thank everyone.
Sorry. I want to thank you, Stacey, for being a wonderful moderator. And thanks to everybody for joining us.
Yep. So, yeah, thanks again, everyone, for taking the time out to attend this forum. Hope you found it valuable. There will be a little survey popping up at the end, so please feel free to give us feedback. Let us know other things that you'd like to cover in future sessions, or if you've got any other questions that you need answered, shoot them through and we'll answer those for you. And thanks for participating in the poll questions. Really appreciate that. So look for the email to come out in the next few days with the recording, the slides, and a whole bunch of resources that we've mentioned. And so that's it from us. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.